Welcome back, and thank you so much for staying with us here on ENCA in conversation with Mike Greenaway, the author of the Fireside Springboks, the untold stories that make the Boks great. So before the break, we were just talking about, the fact that we can be so heavy as a society. There's so many things that concern us, let alone the economy, intermittent electricity, etc. But when you pick up this book, from the cover, there's something that just gives you a sense of relief and hope and looking forward to some positivity. Talk us through the cover.
Right, the cover, this is a guy, Franco Mostert, who's playing in the quarterfinal against France. The background to this is, if you can see closely, there's no crowd in the background at all. This was during the British Lions series.
Before COVID.
Just as we're coming out of COVID, was the most eerie thing to have a rugby international. I mean, South Africa versus the British and Irish Lions is a massive thing. There would have been sold-out stadiums. There wasn't a soul. It was like playing in a ghost town. You could hear these guys breathing. You could hear every word they said. And this is just a great picture taken by a Durban photographer called Steve Haig. And it just shows the Springboks right on top. There's Siya Kolisi and Eben Etzebeth are at the bottom, and they're lifting the Springbok up to the top. Boko Boer and the despairing British Lions guys are looking up at the Springbok at the top. It's kind of symbolic. South Africa won that series, the first post-COVID series, and this picture won a World Sports Photography Award. So it was a good selection for the cover.
That's absolutely beautiful. Okay, now let's go to the timeline so that we don't miss out to acknowledge those that came before the current Springbok team. The fact that there had been a foundation or build-up, a culmination to what we see today. Let's take it back to 1995.
Well, 1995 was pivotal in so many ways. It was 3 years after isolation ended for the Springboks. It was just one of the most special days in South African history. I mean, we can never, ever do full justice to what Madiba did. Prior to that 1995 World Cup, there was a strong movement to abandon the Springbok because, quite rightly, it was seen as a sign of oppression, really, and understandably so. Madiba changed that around by wearing that Francois Pienaar's jersey. And today, just think of the impact that has made now, because the Springboks are now owned by every South African, and what a unifying force they've been. So that was an absolute masterstroke. And if you think, in that 95 team, there was only one black player in Chester Williams. And if you look now at the current Springbok team and see how transformed it is and see what it now means to all South Africans, 1995, the Springboks won the World Cup and their first attempt in a World Cup because they had been outlawed before. Madiba preserved the Springbok. He turned it from a sign of oppression into a sign of unification, or emblem rather. And look where we are today. It's
absolutely magical. I mean, if you think of also of course, the team in its entirety is great, but there's also other individuals that stand out. I'm thinking of Blitzvinnig, for example, Brian Habana, who's himself had been such a huge inspiration, and maybe through his era and that team, you can talk us through that.
Yeah, so the Springboks won the World Cup in 1995. They then had a few difficult years. And then 1998 was the first sort of really post-isolation era where South Africa dominated the world. Nick Mallett was the coach. You see him on SuperSport now. Feisty in his analysis on TV, and he was a feisty coach. And with him as the coach and Gary Teichmann as the captain, they equaled the world record of 17 victories in a row. Then after Mallett, we had another difficult period, and then we had Jake White. And Jake White brought through the likes of Brian Habana. Brian Habana, I'm not sure people understand just how significant he is in Springbok history. I've been with him walking through shopping malls, and he is just completely mobbed to this day. racing a cheetah. Brian Habana has done so much for the Springbok image. Yeah.
And again, with the timeline, I know we're also racing against time, but if you were to just encapsulate, to capture what the book symbolizes, yes, it's feel-good stories that haven't been told before,
yeah.
but it's also meant to inspire, to just remind us of not only our greatness, because we take the ownership of the Springboks' greatness yeah. as a national achievement. Is that what the book intends to do?
Very much so. It's first of all, this book is to ensure that people know their history. If you don't know your history, if you don't know where you come from, then how can you aim for somewhere to go to? So this book encapsulates all of Springbok history from the origins in 1895. It takes us right the way through to Siya Kolisi and the 2019 champions, and hopefully we're going to progress. But it really, what this book about is trying to encapsulate the spirit of the Springboks that have persevered for over 130 years now. And if you read this book and you see the characters in it and what the Springbok jersey has meant to them, it just, you get an understanding of why the Springboks are so great.
Yeah, and paying tribute to the Springboks, I mean, you've done a fantastic job, indeed. This is a glossy, beautiful book put together. You can tell the wealth of the research that went into
yeah.
it, the quality of not only the writing, of course, but also the pictures. I mean, it's not something that you kind of decided to do haphazardly.
Not at all. It took me 2 years to put this book together. Like I said, I read nearly 30 books. I went to newspaper archives around the country looking for pictures. There are a lot of newspaper sort of cuttings yes. in the book, which sort of also, I have a newspaper background, but newspapers also have a great way of capturing the mood at a time in the yeah. country. And then I also went to the best photographers in South Africa and bought images from them. So it was quite a costly exercise, this, putting this book together. But here it is. I'm very proud of it. And the main thing is that there's something now tangible that captures Springbok history, and it's there forever.
And even for a novice, you don't have to be a sideline commentator or to even yeah. understand what a try yeah. is or conversion. Yeah. And the fact that your knee has to be on the ground, it turns out, when you score a yeah. try, right? And looking at the team now, in terms yeah. of the weaknesses, do you think that we are good at the conversions, or that needs improvement against France on Sunday?
Well, jeepers, if we knew the answers to that, we would send them over to Rassie Erasmus right now. You know what, if we look now at where the Springboks are, you know what, I really think we're going to beat France. We're only hours away now from kickoff. I don't think our team really has any weaknesses. I think this quarterfinal match, wow, I think one thing we don't have that the French have is nearly 90,000 Frenchmen in the stadium that are going to be in an absolute frenzy. We've got to combat that. But I honestly think our team doesn't really have any weaknesses. We've got a great team. This game now, I think, is going to come down to just one of those moments that cannot be controlled, a bounce of a ball, an accidental yellow card, something like that. So we just hope for a little bit of Springbok magic will pull us through. And
score predictions, if you want to put your head on a chopping block?
I won't give the actual score, but I'm touching wood here that the Springboks will win by 3 points.
Okay. But we've played France before, but not in a World Cup match.
We've played France many times over the years. The one World Cup match that we have played against them, and I don't want to tempt fate here, but we played them in the 1995 semi-final in Durban in torrential rain, and we won by the skin of our teeth. It came down to the holding out in the last seconds of the game, and we won very narrowly. The French felt they should have won that game, but They didn't.
Yeah.
And the next week, we won the final against New Zealand.
I think history is about to repeat itself. But Mike, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. And all the best. Congratulations on putting together. I think this is going to be one of those iconic or national treasures where people will be buying it over the holidays or even for birthdays. Congratulations on making it on the Christmas list.
Thanks. Yeah, it's on the Exclusive Books Christmas list. Look out for it in bookstores around the country, and I hope South Africans enjoy it.
So that's Mike Greenaway, the author of the Fireside Springbok, the untold stories that make the box great. You can get yourself a copy, but we're going to play out with these images of how South Africans came out in their numbers in the send-off of the box in the start of the World Cup. Electrifying moment there as South Africa sends off Amaboka to the World Cup. But of course, it's not a time to be complacent for the team, especially if you're a defending champion. You want to retain that pole position.